Thank you, ma'am. So my career, as ma'am knows, when I met her the first time, I was working in a financial services company, an MNC. I was working as a HR manager, and I had over the period of, I was already working for 15 years with that organization. So over a period of 15 years, I got to learn a lot, and I went up the ladder, made lateral movements in my career. I was in another position, and I moved to HR. So once I moved to HR, I realized that I enjoy interacting with people, especially one-to-one level. And I started then after about 5 or 6 years, I started feeling even more confident that I want to do something where I get a chance to interact with people. But I wasn't very sure if that is really my forte and whether I will do well in that. And therefore, I visited Selma ma'am. I met her. Actually, I met her for taking career counseling for my son. At the same time, I thought I'll take an opportunity and also myself go through a career counseling session, career guidance session with her, so that I know and I'm sure that whether I'm taking the right step by moving out of HR. So I did the entire career aptitude test and the career counseling guidance, and I was very pleased and happy to know that the report actually said that yes, I will do very well when I interact with people. And I was anyway tired of working on laptops and computers for so many years that I thought human interaction is something that I had been always craving for, and it got kind of validated and verified by the career counseling guidance report that I got from ma'am. So that's how I got the courage to take this plunge. And I so when the time was right for me to leave my full-time job, when I was more or less ready in my life in my other areas of responsibilities, I thought that I can take the plunge. And that's how then I went to ma'am for further training. And this is something that I had always felt since childhood. So, a little bit of history, if I have to go back into my childhood, I was always interested in psychology. From the age of 12, I think I used to read books on transaction analysis and child psychology, women's psychology. I used to read the books. I don't know how much of it really went into my head, but I really found it very, very interesting. But somehow destiny was something else, and I got into science stream, and I did not go into the psychology and HR, sorry, psychology and the related field. So that's how my journey is, and I thought that is my destiny, and I had that way continued for 15 years. So when another important point is when I was in 10th standard, when it was time for me to decide what stream I should take, those days career counseling or career aptitude tests were not very popular, and it was like only the top graders would go for counseling and guidance, and they were told, okay, you can go for medicine or you can go for engineering. It was almost like all other careers did not exist at all. So for us, if we are not going to any of these careers, it meant like, okay, then anything else is fine. And that's how we just took a plunge into a career which we were not sure how well we would do. But I think times were different, then, and now times are really different. The business and the political environment, the economic environment in the country has changed. And I think as I myself started realizing that if I had got this guidance at the right age, probably I would have really done well by now. But as they say, better late than never. So I decided, okay, I will take this plunge. And that's how I got this career guidance. And even now, I keep telling people that you must go for career guidance and not just blindly follow what you think you like. Because one major learning for me, after doing the career guidance and counseling test was I may have hundreds of interests, but my abilities, my innate qualities, and the talent or my own, innate skills could be very different from what I really like. So then you have to make a choice between, do you want to do something that you like, but you may do it mediocre, not very great, or you do something, get into something that you really do well and you can really do very well in your career in which you are naturally good at. So then it's about making yourself adaptable. So luckily, in my case, my interest and thanks to ma'am's continuous guidance and training and encouragement, I am now feeling that I am at a position where I am able to do well in my chosen career, which again I got guidance from ma'am. So yeah, so this is how I made a transition in my career. After moving to psychology.
Sorry, Anuja, to
Yeah.
interrupt, but I have a question before you go ahead with after you move to psychology. How did you manage the fear of, because in a human resource company, when you have already gone up the ladder, risen up to a position, your salary must have been a good amount. And how did you overcome that fear of not receiving a regular monthly income, come what may, and actually exploring your own financial avenues?
Yeah, ma'am, that's, I think, a very important step that I took in my life, the financial angle. So there were two aspects. One was the company where I was working. I worked there for more than 20 years. So I had a very vague idea of the amount that they have got accumulated over 20 years from the public provident fund that gets deducted from our salary every month. So there has been an account which in India all employees are eligible for, a provident fund which is given to the employee by on behalf of the government. So the employer pays an X amount and the government pays an equal amount, contributes an equal amount in the employee's bank account. So that way I had some idea of that I may have accumulated enough where I could probably invest it in such a way that I get a fixed monthly amount. That fixed monthly amount, of course, did not match my salary, but I also did a very deep study of what are my requirements. So I did a detailed study of what I would require for the next 5 years until I'm able to bring in some stability in the new career. So I gave myself 5 years, and and then of course I also took guidance from a professional financial advisor who kind of gave me options that, okay, you have so much X amount of money and you will get Y amount every month. Make sure that your bills are paid. So the stress of paying the bills, which are the regular bills, electricity, water, society where we stay, we have to pay the maintenance bill, house maintenance bill, my mobile bills, and of course our food and clothing had to be taken care of in that much amount. And yeah, so I made some adjustments. I reduced my shopping. I had, because I was working in a corporate environment, I was always conscious of the formal clothes that I wore to work. So I felt I had enough to not, even if I do not buy any more for the next maybe 2 or 3 years. And in India, formal clothes do not change, in terms of trend. They're almost the same for years together. So what really was different was probably if I ever wanted to go out with my friends on a picnic, I may want to wear some trendy clothes. So that was a minimum change that I made in my wardrobe. And yeah, so I made some adjustments in my requirements. So I kind of I weighed my requirements as against what I would probably need to change in terms of my own likes and dislikes. So I cut down on a lot of course, when I stopped going to work, a lot of partying stopped automatically, because you're at home and then your choice whether you want to go out on a weekend. So I kind of cut down a lot of my, anyway I would have to also give some time to my new venture. So I made a timetable of my life where I took care of the finances, the relationships that I wanted to maintain, so that I'm in touch with my people, the new people that I met in the new career, and also had to keep in touch with my people who were in my earlier career. Yeah, so finances, relationships, and of course learning has not stopped till date. So that is something I've been also doing so that I'm able to adapt myself to the new career.
So that is a very, very important step, I think, when one decides to uh, take change careers and take that risk, because the financial advisor who gave you that advice is a very, very important step, I feel. Otherwise, also, I feel that in life, everybody must have a financial advisor, especially see how you managed by cutting down on the shopping and ensuring that every month tension is not there, stress is not there of how you're going to pay the bills. Because when that stress is there, then you are not able to focus on your work and you constantly have that feeling of lack. In fact, that feeling of lack we all are talking about in the law of attraction and in how the universe works. If there is a feeling of lack in any area, not just finance. Like, for example, students, a similar example would be for students who, when they are not performing better in a particular subject, whenever the thought of that subject comes to the mind, there is a feeling of, I'm not doing good in this. And that feeling attracts more of that energy of not doing good. Whereas, if you remember, Sakurako is in high school now, and when I was in high school, whenever there was an English exam, we really did not have to. Really did not even have to study. An English exam used to be the first exam. There was always a feeling of confidence. This subject, oh, first is English, it's fine. But when it came to math, that cloud of stress and cloud of scoring less and cloud of failure would keep hanging over their head. And in fact, I feel that attracted more of not being able to perform. So this particular aspect which you mentioned is so very important about planning and having that financial management. It would be called financial management as a very important aspect. So how did you actually begin, Anuja? What was the uh, first kind of clients that you got, and how was that experience?
Yeah, so the very first exposure, of course, I got at ma'am's center, where there were children coming for remedial education for behavioral therapy. There were teenagers who were coming for counseling, and as a part of my curriculum, and also I felt that I need to learn or have enough exposure to feel confident that maybe I can do on my own now. So I did require about, I think, more than a year handholding from ma'am and her team, where I was visiting the center almost every day for half a day. So I would then enjoy nice lunch with the team and come back home. So I think that exposure really helped because I got a variety of cases to observe and to analyze and to understand. Also, of course, I took career guidance tests. So I was a part of almost all the activities that were happening at the center. So apart from remedial education, behavioral therapy, personal counseling, teenage guidance, parent counseling, and also career guidance. So I also, though I had already got trained, I got further exposure on how to conduct the test, how to do the scoring, how to get the report, and how to interpret the report. And the biggest eye opener for me when I was learning was that there is actually nothing like lack. There is always a huge a huge amount of opportunities. If it's like, if plan A doesn't work, there's a plan B. If plan B doesn't work, there's a plan C. So that's something which I saw. And I usually in life, when we talk about plan A, people always say plan A and plan B, that's it. But when I saw the career guidance report, I saw there was plan D, plan E, plan F, and then I realized there was still more. So then it's like there's really a huge lot of choices from which we can make, we can take a decision on our career. So that was one very big eye opener for me, because I had never done that test before in my life. So I think if children, students get that kind of guidance at the right time, just before entering the high school or after completing their high school, I think that's the right time, because then they know where they have to put in their energies, where they have to put in their efforts. So that's the first step that I got, trained on. And of course, ma'am, I think you had recommended one or two patients to me initially. I think the first two cases were recommended by you, and the fact that you have recommended itself boosted my morale. I felt motivated. Okay, if you have the confidence in me, definitely I have the confidence in myself. And of course, I remembered all the learning and the training that I had received, and I kept getting constant support from your team. That's something I think even now I always reach out whenever I feel even a slightest doubt if I'm doing it the right way. In fact, I think I got into geriatric counseling. I got into marital counseling, and career guidance I did for quite a few students. I guided them as to how it is going to help them, because quite often they don't realize, they feel that my child is good at this and therefore my child should go for this. But not only good, what is their interest, whether, and of course, again, there are levels, so if we may not be in the top notch category in terms of school performance, academic performance, there are still layers and layers within each of those careers where we can see where we fit, and maybe along the line we can aim to go higher, depending on the stream and whether we can take further training, and maybe with experience we learn more, we learn better, and we can go up. So that was something again I got to learn, because I got into a completely new area of career, and today I am able to be in a diverse kind of cases. So my recent last two assignments have been, as ma'am mentioned, cancer patients, counseling of cancer patients, and I'm now working also for an NGO which is for transgenders. So transgender again is a very new thing in India itself. It's kind of a social revolution in the last 2 3 years, since the time the act was passed, because in India we did not have same sex marriage, we did not recognize homosexuals as normal, so called as normal part of the society, and especially the transgender community was totally sidelined. So I think now they are getting their rights, their human rights, and therefore it is very important for mental health professionals to really support the social cause through psychosocial education and counseling, mentoring. So a lot, quite a bit of this population is actually quite well educated. They have already identified what they want to do in life. Like some of them are engineers, some of them are MBA in finance, or they are in HR. They're already there, but because of the psychosocial reasons, somewhere they are not able to do well in their career. So there again, I think mentoring, counseling comes into the picture, and they get a boost that yes, they can do well. And now companies in India are getting into diversity inclusion. So hiring, there's no discrimination. Uh, Diversity is a part of the hiring recruitment, and the NGO is kind of supporting that cause. Yes, I am coming across some clinical cases also, and that's when again I realized that I need to understand the clinical aspect further in deep. And therefore, I recently got myself certified and trained for gender affirmative counseling. So I think that is also an upcoming career in within psychology, and I think it is much needed. There was a time when there was a lot of industrial psychology that was being talked about. So that included training the people of the organization, helping them understand what is emotional intelligence, what is transaction analysis, how it helps in communication, how it helps in maintaining relationships, whether it is professional or personal. So I think from there we have moved to a gender affirmative counseling. I think it's a huge step, and I see a huge opportunity there actually, and we need more people.
You need more people for counselors in that area, right?
Yeah.
Very, very apt. Actually, I liked your this this explanation of not just always have a plan A and plan B, but our reports give you plan A, B, C, and so on. And also in life, it's always good to be ready and accept whatever comes our way, because I always share my experience when I was in the early days, almost 20 years ago, when whatever work I would get, now also whatever work I get, I never say no. And I used to get for an amount of just 500 rupees to travel to Lonavala from Vashi in SP, especially when the expressway was being made. The traffic on the that highway
Yeah,
used
that
to
was
be very tough.
bad.
It used to take very long. I used to leave very early in the morning and go to one of the school, also DC Kavarji school or Bharti Vidyapeeth, giving me some opportunity to go and do counseling. So the idea is, you are also like that, Anuja. I see a lot of deep hunger for learning in order to make a difference. This is not because I know you. Your hunger is not just to know everything. Your hunger is also to impart, to share, and to heal. Heal is the biggest word, because when as counselors we keep our goals that we want to heal the world, we want to heal the family, we want every family to live in a very harmonious way. That is when the counselor really makes the most of his or her existence on this earth. Because we all believe that when we have come to this earth, we have selected actually our purpose. And we are fortunate that we found our purpose, we found our calling at a very young age. Like Sakurako is interested in becoming a career counselor. She is just 16, but she has already made up her mind to do career counseling and guide young people so that they find their correct pathway. Would you like to share your thoughts, Sakurako, here before Anuja goes further into? I have another question for Anuja, but Sakurako, would you like to share your thoughts?
Personally, I want to help people mentally, physically. So as long as I can be in a medical career, I'll be happy.
Fantastic. So ultimately, it's a career which is healing,
Yes.
which wants to heal and help people. My next question to you, Anuja, is you also took training in other holistic areas. You took other healing, other areas that heal.
Yes.
What made you go for learning even the other areas? Like you are a one stop for all healing requirements.
Yeah, thanks, ma'am. I think this is something again, a calling that I have been feeling right since childhood. I have been feeling because it's been my observation that mental health definitely affects our physical health, and anything that happens to our physical body affects our mind. This connection, I think, I learned when I was very small. I could realize, I could see it, and I felt that addressing any one issue really doesn't help because our body, mind, and soul is connected. So if I have to work on my mind, I have to simultaneously also work on my at soul level, and also to some extent at body level. At this time, at this point in time, I have not thought of getting into nutrition, but yes, I have tried to gain some authentic knowledge about basic stuff about how we have to take care of our body. So basically we have to feel healthy. That's the first, I think, thought that should come when we are talking about our physical health. And if we are mentally healthy, we feel mentally at peace. I wouldn't even say healthy, I'll say mental peace. Then you can take care of your physical health and you can take care of your soul. So your soul feels happy, soul feels good. And this is again from experience. And therefore, I went into energy healing. Brief background is also that right since childhood, as I said, I was interested in psychology since childhood. I was very intuitive as a child. Even from the age of 9 and 10, I could feel that sixth sense, the intuition, deja vus, and telepathies, and name it. Everything I felt I had experienced, premonitions, and I have been experiencing this consistently so far back as I remember, probably 8 or 10. And since then I had been very aware of it, and therefore my parallel journey, uh, so called as, to see why my soul, because I knew that my body is definitely not something that is attracting the thoughts, it is the mind. But again, within mind also, I know that I am at peace, and suddenly out of the blue I get some thought, and then it's like eureka. So how and where is this coming from? So that, again, as ma'am said, that hunger to know and understand. So for me, it is not about just learning, it's also about understanding and implementing. So the first thing I learned was to differentiate between my intuition and my thoughts. I think that was the biggest lesson when it comes to uh, health at mental level and soul level, because that's where the intersection happens. Because we are doubtful whether it's a mind going into a thought mode, or is it something that's coming through a soul attraction or at an energy level. And that made me go deeper into the energy aspect of our body, so the so called as the ethereal body, which is the soul, and at energy level. And that experience had made me feel more and more you know uh, uh, curious also at the same time as to what it is. And if I am doing this, or if I am experiencing this, I'm sure there must be many people who are experiencing this. So then that thought also made me feel that, okay, this also is something that affects our mind. At some point, it starts disturbing us, and it comes in the way of our routine also at times. Because suppose I'm working and suddenly there's a flash of intuition, I get completely blank. I lose track of what I'm doing. So now I have learned a better way of managing those intuitions. I've started channelizing the energies. So I know that, okay, when I'm working on my mind, it is my mind that is giving me the thoughts. So now I'm able to differentiate that very well. And that's how I got into energy healing. And so now I have done I think seven levels of pranic healing. And I've also learned Reiki up to 2 levels. So as they say that when the student is ready, the teacher appears. So same happened with me when I did my Reiki 2. After that, I did not get a teacher for level 3. I wanted to do, but somehow even destiny kept, changing ways. And when pranic healing happened, it just happened very swiftly. no obstacles at all. So again, when the student is ready, the teacher appeared.
You are a erratic healer?
Yes.
Done your erratic also?
Yes.
Excellent. I also wanted to ask you, how does handwriting analysis help in career choice? Because I've heard a lot of people talking about handwriting analysis, which helps even in career guidance, in career choice, in selection of a particular career in life. How does that help? Because you are also a handwriting analyst.
Yes. So, yeah, that's actually a very interesting question, because when I was learning handwriting analysis, that was almost 15, 18 years ago, I did that. And I realized that it tells you as a kid, we do a lot of these fake, not fake, sorry, what are they called as, those stories that get inherited. So, what we usually call as fables, you know fables, right, which keep coming from generation, they are passed on. So somewhere I got this knowledge that our handwriting tells what we are thinking. So I had got half baked information, of course. So I I got deeper into it. So this cannot be true. If we could know what a person is thinking at that age, for me it felt like if I could know what someone is thinking, it will be like magic. But then I realized that handwriting analysis itself is a science. There's a science to it. So basically, the neuropath which goes from your brain to your hand, which gives you the command that you should write a particular alphabet. It's actually the hand which is making the movement, but the eyes are watching. Eyes are looking at, say, for example, alphabets. They are like a piece of art. They are not. So when you look at, say for example, you look at G, the capital G and the small g, the way it is written, when we look with eyes, it looks like a piece of art. It is certain shape. But when we write, it is the brain that says, okay, you start from here and you continue here, and this is the shape you give, and this is how you end that particular alphabet. So it is the neuropath which tells you the command. And that's why when you're writing something, whatever is in your mind, your state of mind rather, gets reflected in your handwriting. So if you are disturbed, the mind is disturbed, the handwriting shows that you're disturbed. If you are, feeling happy, the handwriting shows that you are feeling happy. And it also shows, and therefore you can kind of figure out what could be your personality, because each alphabet represents one aspect of your life. So it could be how creative you are, or how you handle your physical image, how conscious you are about your physical image, or how do you control your temper. So one alphabet, I'll just give an example. Alphabet E represents how we are able to control our tempo. And if we look at it, the way we write small e, it's like this. Quite often we write like this and then we leave it. We just write and we leave the control over the pen, which means we leave control over our mind, which also means that there is no control on our emotion. We just blast. We just go work, on impulse. So that alphabet with the action of the hand. So handwriting, you can figure out how the E must have been written. When it is printed, we don't know. It's just a print. It's an image. But when we write, it is written in a way where you know that it is given a stroke. So what we call as a stroke is something when you lose the grip of the pen and you just let go that, which means the same is going on in our mind. We just lose control on our emotions, on our mind, and that's how we realize that okay, this person has anger issues. So a little bit of your personality can be seen. Also about how you look at, say for example, there is one alphabet which indicates that you are very secretive. You do not share yourself very easily. You don't share your emotions. So again, it shows suppressed emotions. It could be something, it could mean introvert. So again, there are other alphabets which you have to see and correlate and figure out whether the person is an introvert or has some kind of issues and therefore not opening up, has any kind of. So So it's a nice combination of various aspects of our personality that is seen in our handwriting. So going by the personality, so again taking the same example, if a person is secretive, typically we feel that, oh, it's not right, we should not be secretive, we should open up, and then you ask the person what is your profession, and that person will be either in a compliance related field where ethically they are not supposed to share a lot of information, or they could be in human resource where again ethics, we do not share information about employees, or I could be a counselor where I'm not supposed to share a lot of my client related information. So being secretive is right, so I am in the right profession. So if you look at the handwriting, you can kind of figure if so the same word, so the same alphabet indicates if you are talkative. So then make use of your talking energy and say, okay, you can be a good public speaker. So that's how we look at the various aspects and kind of, figure out what kind of profession this person may be suitable for.
That's really brilliant and really very interesting. And just like Vastu, I think you can also do modification if there is a negative impact of the handwriting to yourself. Like
Yes.
when I was small, I used to do my signature and the line below used to come back. So I was told that line must not come back. It should be a empathetic straight line with empathetic line.
Yes.
And I was also told to change my signature for, and I did it. And yes, it does have an impact, of what you do. So really, really very, very interesting. Any career which I have missed out, which you are not an expert in?
So, I want to share one more point here, because it's closely related to counseling. So, it's taking the same example of the person being secretive, we also have to see the age of this person. Now, typically, if the age of this person is, say, for example, a teenager, then it's a word of caution. Why is this person secretive? Is there any substance abuse happening?
Excellent.
So I think these are, areas where you can really analyze the handwriting and kind of figure out what this person may be like and what kind of career would be suitable for such a person. Yeah, so ma'am, you have covered almost everything. So yeah, there's one thing which I do, which is tarot card reading. So my interest in psychology, I kind of tried to cover it up at that time, almost 18 years ago. I got interested in tarot card. Uh, for the same reason, I was getting a lot of intuitions, premonitions. I used to get disturbed at certain thoughts, which I thought were thoughts, but they were intuitions. They were not thoughts. And so I got into tarot card reading, which is again a very intuitive and psychology based reading. So even though traditionally many people believe that it is a fortune telling or a future prediction kind of a thing, but I would kind of relate it to psychology because, say, for example, if I have identified a person's personality type, I can easily predict what that person may do in the future. No big deal because I know the personality. But however, if we kind of give some kind of guidance, guide, counseling, mentoring, the person may change, may look at life differently, may look at their own, options, the way they look, the way they look at life, their belief systems. A lot of things could change for the better. And I am seeing the same, you know, the same thing applied at uh, in tarot card reading as well as in graphology. So as ma'am pointed out, there is therapy that can be given. So again, taking the same example of this, suppose the secretiveness is seen in a teenager, we ask the teenager to correct it so that the child is more open and shares uh, their emotions and thoughts with their parents, because we cannot have a teenager who is not sharing it. It does indicate a lot of mental health issues probably. So that's how tarot cards help us. So each tarot card depicts some state of mind. So either it's an emotional state of mind, mental state of, say for example, how the person thinks about money, or how the person thinks about emotions, whether the person is a happy, contented person, or is kind of all the time needs more and more and more. So, and of course, the personality types are seen in tarot cards. And also, it is very similar to, what we have learned in psychology as the thematic perception test. So, these cards are actually pictures. So, when you look at the picture, you can kind of uh, get into the mind of the person. What is this person? What is the first that you focus on in the picture? What is seen? What is not seen? What is blind to the eye? So those also give an idea of what's this person, how this person is going about handling their life. So yes, so most of the things that I do are correlated with each other.
Yeah, it's a big basket that you really have, and the best part is you have managed to create a name in all these areas. You have a name.
Thank you, ma'am.
Uh, people remember you when they talk of tarot, and people remember you for handwriting, for energy healing, for counseling. So it's really, really amazing. Would you also like to share how the career counseling report has also helped your son select a career and how well he is doing now?
Yes. So, a brief background to that again. I'm a single mother, and my son was, I think, around 4 years old when we separated as a couple. So, I have been single parenting him from that age. And for some reason, I thought that I was doing well until he was a certain age. He reached teenage, and then certain challenges that I was seeing in him made me worry about a lot of things, about his own mental condition, whether he's impacted by the divorce, separation of parents. My own parenting, I started questioning my own parenting, whether I'm doing it the right way, whether anything is going wrong, am I falling short? And of course the third was he was always, he would, like, suppose he's watching some serial on the TV. So usually at the end of the serial there are credits given, director so and so, assistant director so and so, costume designer. So he would always ask me, if I have to be a costume designer, what do I need to study? If I want to be a director, what do I need to study? If I want to be an actor, what do I need to study? So I knew that his mind is already thinking in the direction of what he wants to do. Accordingly, he will have to study. So I got that thought process in his mind was very clear. But one concern was that his academic grades were falling, and I wasn't feeling very comfortable about it. And that's when actually the first time I met Selma ma'am, I went to her for his career guidance, his emotional and psychometric test to see how he's doing emotionally, mentally, whether he needs any kind of counseling guidance. It turned out that he was on the borderline of learning difficulty, and we saw that he had dyscalculia, and because his grades in mathematics particularly were falling, in other subjects he was doing pretty well. And yeah, he was studying in a residential school, he was in a boarding school, so that was another challenge for me to get him to Bombay and take him to the center and make him do the career counseling test. And which is a very elaborate test, and I would have to dedicate at least half a day for that career counseling, the entire session. So I managed to do that. I managed to get him to Bombay one day, and they did the report. So I think, so then I realized that one, of course, he had learning difficulties, something that came up. Second was, I realized that he was really doing very well mentally, emotionally. He had otherwise no other challenges. So that kind of gave me a little bit of assurance that I am doing well. Not only he, but I am also doing well. Of course, like any other teenager, he had his confusions about what he wants to do ahead in life. And I think the career guidance report really helped him. And it kind of reinforced his belief and my belief that he is also thinking on the right lines. And today, he has followed that, and he's graduated in event management and public relations, which had come up in the report. And as I could see it, during childhood, he would watch TV and he would ask if I. So that again gave me an indication that he is interested in live events. He likes to know what happens at the backstage of an event. He's interested to know how the events are conducted. How do you, how do so many people come and make one project? So a serial or a movie is made. There are different types of people who team up and make this movie. So how it is made is something that I think he was always interested in, and he could not exactly say it in those words, but it showed up in the report.
He wanted his name in the credit.
Yes.
His name in the credit. That was really, really something. I'm so glad, because Anuja, you're a very courageous person, and a combination, many times the people who are very courageous are also at times a little more assertive or more aggressive and very, but you are a very kind, soft spoken,
No, ma'am.
a very empathetic and spiritual, and still a courageous person. So that's, I think your courage comes more from spirituality and your experiences with your intuitions and following them. It's really, it is really wonderful to listen to you every time. So thank you very much for giving your very precious time. Would you like to say something to Sakura? Would you have a word for her?
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Really, thank you for those kind words. I am really overwhelmed. Yeah, so it has been a nice journey. So what I would like to say is, one thing that we should remember, even as career counselors, or even if someone else comes to us for career counseling, and this is my experience. Career is very fluid, because a person's personality develops as they grow. And therefore, if the person feels at some point in time that I'm not enjoying what I'm doing, or I'm not liking what I'm doing, I think it is stop, do a check. So career counseling should not stop at one. I mean, it's not a one time done and thing. We must encourage our clients to keep doing a check, maybe 7 to 8 years, some kind of benchmark where they can do a career test once again to see that they are on the right track. So, for example, again, my own example. So, as a professional, I was in HR, but I was parallelly doing tarot card and I was doing grapho. So, it was kind of so two things happened. I was developing my parallel career along with my mainstream career. Secondly, it also kind of gave me a break from what I was doing as a routine. So that was that time what I called as hobby, I converted into my profession later. And now that I have converted my hobby into profession, I again want something in the side, and therefore I have started learning Hindustani classical music, because I always
Oh,
want a hobby next to my mainstream
oh,
career.
amazing, amazing.
So this is something that is, I think, for all of us, that we must have something parallelly going on, which really keeps us uh, grounded. It keeps us, be ready and more fluid, and experiment with our own likes, and maybe as a personality, I may change. As ma'am said, I have been a single parent, and I have seen my own journey of spirituality. And in fact, I was listening to one spiritual guru, I think about 2 months ago. And it was like as though it's me talking to me in the mirror. And I felt so, so grateful. I'm so grateful that the thoughts resonated so well with me. And I was like, yes, I am on the right path. I'm not into a spiritual career, except, of course, I'm a professional healer, but I'm not into, spiritual discourses or something. But recently, I also did a coaching, leadership coaching course, so that I'm able to help people transform completely, right from their mental, emotional, state of mind, to their career, to their personality, to whatever that they want to make a change in, and a person can transform. So I can soon hopefully call myself as a transformation coach. So as a part of that exercise, I had to take reviews from people who know me to give me a feedback on how I'm doing. And one thing which came up strikingly common was do something with your voice. And then I remembered I have never done spiritual discourses, and I don't think I'm mentally prepared to do it, because I personally believe that it is your personal choice. Whether you want to be in it, you don't want to be in it, it's your choice. But then again, it makes me think there may be some population who may be interested. So why not try? So right now, I'm only focusing on my singing, so that I'm doing something with my voice. And yeah, maybe sometime I may start taking group sessions or something. I don't know. Not decided anything yet. So it's fluid.
It's fantastic. It's really, really amazing. So thank you very much and wish you a wonderful day.
Thank you
Thank you
so
for your
much.
time, and I hope to see you again soon.
Thank you. And wish you all the best, Sakuruku. Bye.
Thank you.